welcome to BizTech on GhanaWeb TV. My name is Ernestina Sawa Asante. Distance, they say, is not a barrier, and that is why I am coming your way with the latest edition of BizTech from Johannesburg, South Africa. Today we are going to talk about debt, whether or not it is good to be in debt. And I have with me a banking expert, Dr. Christian Ayiku, who is going to give us more insight into this. Doc, you are welcome.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to have you here.
Same here. And how did you get to South Africa in the first place?
I moved to South Africa in 2012. I was looking for opportunities, and this is where I found the opportunity. And I moved this side, and I have been on this side. 2017, I moved to Togo to work with the EcoBank Group for 3.5 years, and then I came back again to South Africa. Yeah.
So what other jobs did you do?
Other than that, I've worked with Tema Oil Refinery. That's where I started working first. I worked in South Korea as well. Aside that, I've worked with lots of SMEs as well, and I sit on a couple of boards here in South Africa and across the continent as well. I mean, Afrodad being one of them. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so now let's delve deeper. What is debt in a layman's term?
So, debt simply means you borrowing something from somebody with the promise of repaying on a set time. So, debt must not necessarily be money. It can be you going to borrow chicken, live chicken, going to borrow books, pencil, talking of students, or even borrowing food with a promise of repaying back and including interest. That's basically what debt is.
And then there's an argument that debt is good. Is it really good, or it is classified as bad?
Debt is good depending on what you use it for. Ideally, you need to use debt for what you said you want to use it for. And even over and above that, you need to practicalize it in the sense that you cannot take a short-term debt, a 3-year loan, and use it to finance, let's say, a road. In the sense that how long is the road going to take to generate that money? It's going to take in excess of 3 years. So if you take a 3-year loan, obviously you are strangling yourself. All that it means is that at the end of 3 years, the person who gave you the debt is looking for his money back. But because roads are, long-term in nature, in terms of their lifespan, it's about 20 years. They depreciate it over 20 years. And using road as an example. So you then need to match it with the type of debt associated with, the asset that you want to acquire. You don't do mismatches. When you do mismatches, it will come and bite you. And we are seeing this on the continent where some countries borrow specific monies, but then they use it for something else, only for them to have that challenge in their countries.
Talking of that, Ghana has run to the IMF for financial assistance. And of course, they're not going to really tell us the terms of the contract, but we are having the rippling effect. How should the contracts be structured in a way that we also tend to heave a sigh of relief instead of it always favoring them?
So, peculiar to Ghana, I'm aware there's a right to information bill. So, as journalists, for example, yourself, you can then lobby to get access to specific covenants and that sort of thing. If you're having challenges, either you lobby through your, parliamentarian, representing the area in which you live in, or in the worst case scenario, go to court to compel the Ministry of Finance, as the case may be, to share details of the contract. And the AfroMedi 5th edition program is supposed to be capacitizing you as journalists to look out for specific things in such contracts so that you can bring it to the fore. Bear in mind, You guys are the gatekeepers between the citizens and the ruling government, so to speak. If things are going bad, you should be highlighting it to the citizens for the citizens to know that things are not going in the right perspective.
But others do apply for the RTI thing and it doesn't work out. All you get to know is there's haircut, zero bond. You know, there are some popular terms that when you hear, you know that you are in danger. So in such a case, what do we do?
I'm aware in the previous government in Ghana, there were haircuts on the Eurobonds. Some people lost their pensions, people lost their lives, and a whole lot of things. People lost value in what they had invested in. I think there needs to be accountability for how those debts were raised. Okay, I'm aware this is currently being handled by the intelligence agency in Ghana, where the Minister of Finance has been invited, for questioning and that sort of thing. But over and above that, I think it's more about talking about the issue, raising the awareness to the citizenry. I mean, when the previous government, the previous government's president, yes, he did a similar thing during the NDC time. And you might have heard of things of Kumi Preku and all those kind of things. He spearheaded all those and created that awareness. And, eventually people became aware that NDC was playing games with the economy and that sort of thing. But be as it may, he became a worst culprit. That's the thing. So I think it's more of the advocacy which needs to be deepened. Until it's deepened, people would pivot towards going to the electoral box, thumb printing, and then taking a snapshot of it to confirm that they have voted for you. Taking maybe 5-liter vegetable oil and rice and maybe 500 CDs, that sort of thing. That's how they sell their conscience. But if people are conscientized every now and then, you would realize not everybody will come to the party, but some are obviously going to come to the party. That's the thing.
Okay. So back to the President Akufo-Addo administration. Now, Ghana's public debt is over 700 billion cedis. This means that every Ghanaian owes about 837 cedis. How did we even get here in the first place? Is it tied to the fact that even this whole debt thing started in the colonial era?
So, breaking it down, there is the old stock of debt, and then there's a new stock of debt. We need to look at it from that perspective. When you look at the new stock of debt, I don't know the ratio, but when you look at the new stock of debt, so you ask yourself, how did it come by? Look at all those infrastructure, projects that were started which have not been completed. That's where the debts have accrued, and most of them are in foreign currency. And as I demonstrated yesterday, there's a purchasing power, theory, where you say that you take a common good produced in your country, and then in the country where you are borrowing the money. So using South Africa as an example, the 2-liter Coke is around 27 rand. In the US, it's about almost $2. When you translate it, it's about $50. When you do the differential, it's $22. So it means it's cheaper to produce Coke in South Africa than in New York. Flip it. When you flip it, say you are borrowing $100 million from the US, whether it's commercial or from the US government or IMF or that sort of thing. When you borrow the $100 million, in your country, you are going to be using the rands. The rand is the local currency. In paying back, you are paying principal and then interest. And then there's that differential that we just talked about that you are going to be paying, which is like an albatross. What it means is that anytime you borrow in foreign currency, there's that albatross that is chasing you. You can never escape it. But if you are doing borrowing in your local currency, all that it means is that you are just paying the principal and then the interest. BRICS has shown that you can transact in local currencies. So Russia will use rubles, Ghana will use cedis, that sort of thing. But guess what? President Trump has suddenly said those who are using local currencies, if you still continue doing business with America, America will put 25% tariff on your goods, which means they will make it more expensive by 25%. How many governments are ready to go that route? In going that route, it means you need to be aware of the consequences, the impact on your economy, and that sort of thing. Going back to what you initially asked about the debt, is it coming from the colonial side or the new stock? I believe that in accruing debt, we need to look at the basics in terms of the needs of the country. At a basic level, people want food. After being satisfied, they want shelter, place to put their heads. Then after putting their heads somewhere, they then have extra income to influence their lifestyle, go to the stadium to watch soccer, go for holidays and that sort of thing. Looking at food is not just planting. There's irrigation, there's soil science, there's crop science, making the crops drought resistant. There is even setting up infrastructure for storage of products, doing processing of the products to enhance the life, the shelf life, and all that. For example, we know tomatoes in Ghana do not have a long shelf life. Somebody was just asking me recently, and I was able to tell him because I had done farming here. I'm into farming as well. The tomatoes in Ghana has a lot of water in it, so it can't stay on the shelf for long. You need to have the kind of tomatoes that has more flesh, and that type of tomatoes is what you find in Burkina Faso and Niger, and that's how come Ghana spends almost $600 million every year to go to Burkina Faso and Niger to bring such produce into the country. If Ghana were to have put into place proper policies to encourage farmers within Ghana to plant, or even if they were to, Ghana was to have proper policies to get crop scientists to develop better tomato products, there will be no need to take the foreign currency out of the country because you use local currency to do it. And that's how you create employment in Ghana. But anytime you take the money across the border to go and buy those things, you are killing the jobs of the crop scientists, the jobs of the farmers themselves, and all that. If the issue is land tenure, resolve the land tenure system. The solutions are there, but the political will to do it is not there because the focus is on the quick money returns. Quick money returns in terms of the next election. How do they perpetuate themselves in governance? You are aware of those 40-footer containers that were found with dollars in it, and it was unheard of. Those are some of the problems.
Okay, the conversation is getting interesting, but then we are taking a quick breather. When we come back, we are delving more into the matters of the economy. Welcome back from that quick break. So, Doc, you were talking about how we can create more employment for the teeming unemployed youth in the country. This government says it is implementing the 24-hour economy. I don't know if you've heard about that. And do you think it is fit for purpose?
Yes, I've heard about the 24-hour economy. It's fit for purpose where there's demand. So demand must be created internally and externally. What it means is that the current government must actively go out doing business development. That's in business terms. So the president must go to Togo, go to Cote d'Ivoire, go to Nigeria, sell Ghana, say that we can produce X, Y, Z, which then feeds into the 24-hour economy thing that you are doing. And what it also means is that part of what you produce needs to be consumed in country. Because if, let's say, Ghanaians have appetite for, let's say, canned tomatoes, and it's all coming from, let's say, Thailand. Anytime you import, it means you are killing a potential industry in Ghana. How about capacitizing farmers to produce tomatoes and then can it in Ghana and then use it in Ghana? Those are some of the things.
Okay, so on debt service to tax revenue, the business community are complaining of paying numerous taxes, the VAT, excise taxes, among others. How can they heave a sigh of relief because they've been complaining so much and it looks like things are going slower for them?
Let me give you a practical example. I think Ghana's population is around 33 million, right? Let's agree for argument's sake that the productive population, strata is around, let's say, 15 million out of the 33 million. So 15 million meaning from 18 years to up to like 60 years. And out of this 15 million, only 5 million is being taxed in the formal sector, inclusive of companies that are being run. What it means is that increasingly, if government wants money, it's going to tax the 5 million. Every now and then, the same 5 million. What it means is it gets to a point that 5 million are going to get fed up because they are being overtaxed. They don't have enough disposable income to do what they want to do. So increase in VAT, NHIL, whatever, COVID levy and all that. But guess what? There's another way of tackling the issue. What about the remaining 10 million who are not in the tax brackets? How do you bring them back into the tax bracket? Some of them are those working, having their stores at Katamanto, Agbogboshi, Swami, and all that. How do you bring those guys? Once you start bringing those guys into the tax bracket, what it means is you start growing the tax, returns without necessarily impacting or putting pressure on those who are already being taxed. Let's say the 5 million are being taxed, let's say 2 cities. So 2 cities is 10 million. The other 10 million, let's say you bring in 5 million. Bringing in 5 million brings in another 10 million, which means you are getting 20 million. The government knows these principles, but there is lack of will to follow through because they have a quicker way of taking money out of the system, which is the 10%. So question is, why do you bother about going through that pain to do that? Rather, you want to go in for those long-dated projects and that sort of thing to make money out of it. Remember I said there's food, shelter, clothing. Clothing covers for lifestyle and all that. Why would you want to go for building, flyovers and all that whilst people are hungry? It's basically because, when they bring 20 billion, they're taking, let's say 10%. So that 10% is 2 billion. That is what is happening in the economy.
So the question again, how? So how? Because if you tell the informal sector that come and pay tax, they certainly will not.
So they certainly will not. Some ways of going around this is to have, or is to put into place appropriate policies where you say to the informal sector, or let's say the person at Katamanto, I want to give you guys loans for you to set up properly, for you to, grow your business and that sort of thing. what then that does is that for you to register yourself with the Registrar General, as part of it, you get your tax ID. You have access to loans. Maybe those loans are domiciled with Ghana Commercial Bank or that sort of thing. You realize people will be captured into the system. Until recently, households were not paying tax. So you have the municipalities in the country, but then there were nothing like gutters and utilities. And you walk around town and everything is choked and all that. You see, when government takes the responsibility and moves in to do what it has to do, there are always results. But it's the ineptitude and the lack of proper will to do it that raises the issues. I mean, imagine somebody who was a director of one of the ministries in Ghana. Apparently, he diverted $7 million. You read of that thing? That happened, that thing blew up, I think Friday or that sort of thing. And you have unscrupulous lawyers now saying that the Attorney General breached, the human rights of that person. Meanwhile, he messed up with the system. These are the issues happening in the country, and it's not just Ghana. It's across the continent, but then at various levels. That's the thing.
Lastly, before you go, you have been in South Africa for the past 15 years, and you were staying in Ghana before you moved here. Comparing the two, what do you think we are not doing right for us to also build our economy?
So I think the opportunity South Africa has is that apartheid set the foundation for the country in terms of infrastructure. The downside of issues in South Africa is that because of the segregation during the apartheid time, it's impacted some of the races. And you see it in the normal lives of people where some races are up and some are down. Flip it into Ghana. Ghana, look at it from the perspective of the various tribes. Because of the family system in Ghana, people tend to be well knit together. But the disadvantage is that when things are going wrong, people in the family do not caution or draw the attention of the person causing the problem. So it's more of a mixed bag and how you look at it. I believe if you want to look at the commonalities, Ghana can learn from South Africa where it has done well, and South Africa can also learn from Ghana where it has done well, that sort of thing, to move itself forward. But again, it's more about prioritization, what the citizens need, as opposed to what you are trying to give to the citizens as a government. If you are selling oranges in an environment where the people don't want oranges, what happens? You are left with the stock. But if you are selling things that the people need, they are going to buy it. So look at it also from the perspective that whatever the government is doing is a product or service to the citizens. And is that product or service value to the citizens? Or the government is literally shoving it down the throat of the citizens?
All right, so that brings us to an end of today's edition of BizTech on GhanaWeb TV. You know that anything you are supposed to do, ensure you put value or weigh the two options and know that you are not running at a bad debt, because today we know there is a good debt depending on what you are using the product or service for. My name is Ernestina Sewa Asante, and my guest was Dr. Christian Ayiku, a banking and finance expert.